Connection issues. What the hell is that? Ron and Ho nearly choked on his hot shala, spilling the fragrant liquid onto his jumpsuit. The smart fabric instantly absorbed it, leaving no trace. Ron barely stopped himself from rubbing his eyes. His jaw dropped, and he stared at the xAIStorytelling display in total shock. Eerie, you saw that too, right? Please clarify. Operator at Ho. Saw what? Came the pleasant female voice of Eerie, the pseudo-intelligent software shell of the virtual intelligence running the 18th pumping station's Kvink. Near the pipeline support. I don't understand. What exactly are you referring to? Operator at Ho. Either I'm hallucinating, Ron muttered, setting his mug on the edge of the control console, or is something wrong? Operator at Ho. Eerie's synthesized voice carried a hint of concern. First off, enough with the operator at Ho crap, Ron grimaced. Noted. Ron, whatever you say. Eerie switched to a more casual tone. And second, Eerie, pull up the footage from camera 34 for the last 2 minutes. Got it, Ron. The xAIStorytelling display image didn't seem to change. The same massive pipeline support loomed through patches of orange fog in the thick twilight of the local long day. Adho glued his eyes to the screen. There! Stop! Eerie. Rewind half a second. There. Another half. One more. Stop! That's it! Ron leaned back in the deep operator's chair. Eerie. How do you explain this? He jabbed a finger at the frozen frame. What exactly should I explain, Ron? Are you blind? You quantum dummy? Ron exploded. I don't understand. Operator at Ho. Eerie reverted to a dry, formal tone. And I'd appreciate it if you refrained from using derogatory terms toward the virtual intelligence. So, you're telling me you don't see anything weird here, Eerie? You're phrasing the question incorrectly, Operator at Ho. I see Titan's surface, a pipeline section, and one of its supports. What specifically do you consider weird? All right. Ron tapped his fingers on the console's plastic, lost in thought. What a moron, he finally declared, for a prank like that. Eerie, check the logs for any unauthorized tampering with camera 34, hardware or software. Understood, Eerie responded, and after a barely perceptible pause, reported, no signs of unauthorized interference detected. Then she added, care to explain what's got you so rattled, Operator? I'm picking up signs of intense emotional distress in your tone. All right. Ron ignored the question. Eerie, patch me through to Mars. Crap, not the planet, obviously, algorithmist Marcel Nazari. I'm perfectly capable of understanding context. Operator at Ho, Eerie said with a touch of sarcasm. Connecting. What do you want? Marcel Nazari's breathless, annoyed voice came through a couple of seconds later, beamed straight into Ron's auditory cortex. Mars, you sick bastard, how the hell did you pull this off? Ron barked. This kind of idiotic prank is way over the line. Plus, messing with Eerie's software is a serious workplace violation. What are you blabbering about? You idiot. Marcel sounded genuinely shocked, at least to Ron. Buzz off, I'm busy. You with Tori? Huh? My turn, in case you forgot, the algorithmist snapped. Want to join? You'd have to ask Tori. Shut up. What do you make of this, Mars? Eerie, send him the frame. Ron nodded at the xAIStorytelling display. Holy crap! Marcel's stunned voice came through. What the hell is that? Frame from camera 34. Mars. You're an idiot, and your pranks are dumber than dirt. So, you're saying this wasn't your doing? Ron clarified. A vague, chilling premonition stabbed at his heart like a cold needle. Swear to God. No way. I didn't do anything. Then we've got a problem. Mars. Me and Tori are coming to the central post, Marcel said after a brief pause, his tone completely different. It's not a hallucination. Hallucinations don't show up on recordings. Marcel Nazari sat in a chair, rubbing his bald head as he repeatedly ordered Eerie to replay the footage fragment on the xAIStorytelling display. What do you think, Tori? Can hallucinations get recorded? He added, turning to the woman. Tori sat on the other side of the control console, arms crossed over her small chest, her jumpsuit half unzipped over bare skin. She looked disheveled, red curls a mess, lips slightly swollen, still bearing traces of recent activities. Ron pictured Marcel roughly kissing those lips and shook his head, as if to banish the intrusive thought. Don't play dumb, Marcy, Tori scoffed. Nazari smirked crookedly, but Eerie doesn't see her on the recording, which means something did mess with the Kvink's software shell. Erie perceives reality as digital data streams, and by tweaking those streams, you can make her miss something, or see something that isn't there. That kind of hack, though, takes some serious skills. I thought you were pranking me, Ron remarked. Bullshit, Marcel snorted. Think about it. If I wanted to mess with you, would I stick in a split-second frame you might not even notice? What's the point? Fair, Ron nodded. But what the hell is it then? Option 1. Someone or something tampered with the data stream from camera 34, injecting this artificially generated frame into both the live feed and the recording. Meanwhile, Erie kept getting the unaltered stream, so she didn't see what we did. Ron glanced at the EIDU display again. The frozen frame was hard to make out in the eternal twilight and aerosol drizzle. But there was no mistaking it. A completely naked, pale-skinned woman. No suit, no clothes, nothing. Long hair spilled freely over her shoulders. She stood with her back to the camera, her face invisible. So she doesn't actually exist? Ron said finally. Just a digital phantom in the data streams? Marcel snorted again, scratching his beard. You think a naked chick is actually strolling around Titan's surface at minus 180 Celsius? In a toxic, oxygen-free atmosphere. You need help, buddy. There are synths that can handle those conditions for a while, Ron said cautiously. Polymer skin, that kind of thing. Sure, Marcel nodded. But a real object doesn't just pop into a frame for a second and vanish. Plus, where does synth come from out here? Ron shrugged. Erie, he addressed the virtual intelligence. Rewind the footage half a second. Nothing changed. Another half second. The naked woman was gone. All right, you've convinced me, Adho sighed. It's a digital phantom, or whatever you call it. But who made it? You say it wasn't you. Not me. Ron began. You, Marcel cut him off. Couldn't pull it off. No offense, buddy, but you're no algorithmist, just a regular engineer operator. Adho nodded, conceding the obvious. That leaves Tori. Tori, was it you? Marcel raised an eyebrow, pointing at her with mock seriousness. Fess up. Tori grimaced. Marcy, you're not even funny. Marcel laughed and threw up his hands. So, none of us did it. If it wasn't us, Ron said slowly, then who the hell did? Virus. A virus. From where? Could be anywhere. Slipped in during a software update. Maybe. Kind of a weird virus. Not really. Advanced viruses with AI can pull off crazier stunts than this. And yeah, these little pranks might be hiding something way worse, like critical equipment failures or, God forbid, life support systems going down. Speaking of, something's up with the pumps. Adho noted. 5 and 7 keep throwing error signals, but sensors say the pipeline's still pumping at normal volume. Pressure's fine. Remote diagnostics keep failing. Erie sent a repair bot to check it out, but we lost contact with it. There you go. Marcel slapped the console lightly. Erie's probably infected. My diagnostics show no infection. The virtual intelligence interjected. Erie's just a virtual intelligence, not a full-blown AI. Marcel shrugged. No need for a top-tier kavink like a Logos or even a wizard on a pumping station. Basic systems like Erie are plenty. Problem is, a sophisticated AI virus can easily bypass their defenses. I'll have to do a full sweep. Erie, I'm going to need to shut down some of your modules. Understood, Marcel. Erie's voice carried a note of resignation. I hope it won't hurt. I'm heading out to the sea to check on the pumps and the bot, Ron said, standing from his chair. Storm's coming, Nazari warned. Maybe wait. I'll be quick. Think we should report this to Huygens? The virus theory made sense, but something in Ron's gut screamed that Marcel was dead wrong. That cold needle of dread stabbed his heart again. We can always report later, Nazari grumbled. Let's try to handle it ourselves first. Don't want them docking our bonuses. Do we? In the airlock's transition chamber, Ron suited up in a multi-layered, heated spacesuit with heavy, thermally insulated boots for Titan's brutal cold. He sealed it and ran a quick systems check. Oxygen, power, heating, seals, med system, camera, radio. 50 parameters in all. Check complete. Adho disconnected from the service rack, stepped into the airlock, and ordered Erie to start the process. Pumps sucked out the air, replaced it with inert gas, and raised the pressure slightly above the external atmosphere. Finally, the massive outer airlock doors slid open. The sky was a solid veil. Titan's bright day resembled Earth's twilight. Visibility was limited by the ever-present orange smog, through which the coastal plains' outlines emerged, strewn with ice pebbles. Hard as granite at these temperatures, and the giant pipeline, elevated on massive supports. Holding the handrails, Ron descended the short staircase from the platform, stepped onto the methane-soaked ice sand, and headed for the coast. There, in the sea, sat the platform that extracted the liquid ethane-methane mix that made up Titan's hydrosphere. The hydrocarbon cocktail was pumped straight from the sea by powerful pumps, piped to Huygens City, and processed into nanocarbon for ultra-strong carbon fiber composites, supplying Titan's colony and human settlements across the solar system, Mars's poles, Callisto's habitats, and the main belt and Jupiter's Trojan swarm. Pumping stations like the 18th, scattered along the coast, were fully automated, run by virtual intelligences. But they weren't entirely autonomous. A duty crew of 3 or 4 rotated every local day, nearly 16 Earth days, for emergencies. The walk to the pump platform usually took 5 minutes. The wind picked up, tearing the smog into shreds. The first raindrops fell. Adho, moving in small hops suited to the low gravity, was halfway there when something flickered in the fog to his left, just at the edge of his helmet's visor. He turned and saw her. The naked woman, standing about 15 meters away. The same one from the recording. Adho swore under his breath. Eerie, you picking up anything through my camera? You're observing her again, Operator Adho. Eerie's voice sounded in his head. As before, I'm not detecting the phenomena you describe. Patch me through to Marcel Nazari, Ron ordered. Mars, your so-called digital phantom. I'm seeing her with my own eyes now. You seeing this? Yeah, I see her through your camera, buddy, Marcel replied instantly. You're seeing her in person? I'm telling you, I'm looking right at her. She's close, naked on Titan's surface. The woman waved, as if beckoning Ron to follow, then stepped back and vanished into the thick smog. Get out of there, Ron. Marcel's voice was dead serious, no trace of his usual snark. Head back to the module now? Screw the pumps, we'll deal with them later. Move. On my way, Ron said. A shiver of raw fear, bordering on panic, running through him. He felt exposed in the fog, where something impossible lurked. Ron turned and hurried back toward the squat, disc-shaped residential module, topped with a small dome of comm antennas. He fought the urge to look back, sensing eyes on him. Gritting his teeth, he resisted. The suit's med system, detecting his stress, injected a sedative. It helped a bit. A gust of wind parted the fog, and there she was again, to his right, 15 meters away. How'd she get there so fast? A panicked thought flashed. The woman raised her hand, beckoning again, then stepped back, dissolving into the haze. Fear surged, sticky and suffocating. Eerie, start the airlock cycle, Ron nearly shouted. Open the hatch the second I'm there. Understood, the virtual intelligence replied. Desperate to reach the module's safety, Ron took long, bounding leaps, soaring 3 meters with each step in the low gravity. The elastic suit barely hindered him. That haste was his undoing. On landing, his foot twisted, and he began to fall forward slowly in the low gravity. Not bothering to regain balance, he thrust his hands out, gloves sinking into the liquidy mud. You okay? Marcel's worried voice came through. Think so? Ron muttered, getting to his feet. She stood right in front of him. So close, Ron could see her cold eyes. His consciousness began to dissolve into an icy abyss. Ron, you good? Marcel asked. Think so, Adho replied instantly. And then the feed from Ron's suit camera cut out. Ron, what's going on? The feed's dead. Ron, you hear me? Ron, no response. Tori stood behind Marcel's chair, clutching a mug of shala, its cinnamon chicory aroma filling the air, her elbows resting on the chair's back. Eerie, show me Ron, Marcel ordered the virtual intelligence. The display flickered back to life, now showing Titan's surface from the external cameras. Where's Ronnie? Tori peered over Marcel's shoulder, straining to see. Unknown, Eerie reported. I can't visually locate him. Telemetry from Operator Adho's suit is lost. The thick smog made spotting a suited figure from 50 meters impossible. The storm and methane rain only worsened the already poor visibility. Son of a bitch, Nazari cursed. Ron, you copy? Still no answer. Telemetry signal absent, Eerie repeated. I'm going out to look for Ronnie, Tori said quickly, setting her mug on the console. Where do you think you're going? Marcel waved her off, standing. There's a storm raging, Visibility's near zero with the methane rain. You want to be the next one lost? I'm going. That's an order from the shift lead. No discussion. Nazari left the central post, striding down the ring corridor toward the airlock. Magnetic soles clung to the floor, compensating for the weak gravity. He suited up quickly and ran the systems check. During the airlock cycle, a sudden fear hit him. What if she was out there? Ron had seen her with his own eyes. What a meeting like that could mean, Marcel had no idea, but the thought chilled him to the bone. Rain streamed down his suit as Nazari stepped onto the icy slush. He switched on the helmet's powerful spotlight, but the beam scattered uselessly in the dense fog. Eerie? You copy? Loud and clear, Marcel. Eerie, guide me to where Ato's suit signal dropped. Understood. A green, flickering AR arrow appeared before Nazari's eyes, with numbers indicating distance. He moved in that direction, glancing around constantly. Visibility was awful. The numbers ticked down, and Ato's suit telemetry reestablished, Eerie reported suddenly. Med system indicates Operator Ato is unconscious. Then Nazari saw it, a motionless figure in a suit, lying in the fog ahead. Lifting Ron in Titan's low gravity was easy. Through the visor, Marcel saw his friend's pale face, eyes closed. Eerie, is Ron alive? Operator Ato is alive but unconscious. Suit undamaged, vital signs within normal range. No physical injuries detected by the med system. Cause of unconsciousness unknown. Immediate evacuation recommended. Risk of Ato's condition deteriorating and exposure to an unknown factor. Unknown factor, Marcel muttered, then ordered, Tori, prep the medbay. Without rushing, Nazari headed back to the module. Eerie, start the airlock cycle. He realized he'd echoed Ron's words from just before the connection dropped. If something's going to happen, it'll happen now, an unhelpful thought struck. The creeping sense that she was out there in the fog wouldn't leave him. Cold fear, as biting as the frigid environment, gripped him. She was close, lurking in the haze, waiting, and he was alone on this hostile, icy plain, facing an unknown, terrifying force. These panic thoughts flooded his mind, inescapable. Marcel sighed in relief only when the airlock's outer hatch sealed behind him. How long was I out? Ron sat naked on the medbay cot, covered in wireless sensors from head to toe. About 2 hours. Tori, seated at the control console, looked distant. She waved her hands in the air, interacting with an AR interface only she could see. Hey, am I okay? Ron asked, noticing her frown. Yes, Ronnie, everything's within normal. But I need to take a blood sample. Why? Protocol. Tori shrugged, seeming a bit nervous to Ron. Was my suit damaged? No, just a formality. Don't worry. Why can't I connect to the net or Eerie? Is my Neuralink busted? It's not even throwing an error. Tori shrugged again, less confidently. Don't stress about it for now. I'll run diagnostics and fix it. For now, you need to sleep. Stress aftermath. Marcel Nazari poked his head into the medbay. Man, you caused a hell of a scare, buddy. I nearly crapped myself dragging you back to the module. You remember what happened? Last thing I recall is tripping. Woke up here. Weird. I couldn't have passed out from a fall in this gravity. Something's off. That's when your connection and telemetry cut out, Marcel said. Something happened out there. We just don't know what. I saw her. Saw her with my own damn eyes. So much for your digital phantom theory. Marcel snorted. Your synth theory's starting to look better, buddy. Unless someone's projecting augmented reality straight into our visual cortexes with that naked chick. And the cameras? The recordings. That's definitely a phantom, synced with the IDA projections. That's why we see her. But Eerie doesn't. And who's doing it, you think? A virus. Give me a break. IDA projections need specialized software, equipment. Yeah, a virus isn't doing that. So maybe there's a flitter or crawler nearby with the gear. I don't know. It's not coming from orbit. That's crazy. Agreed. But this whole situation's nuts. Unless, Marcel hesitated. Unless what? Unless someone's running a seriously twisted experiment on us. Who the hell would do that? And why? Marcel just shrugged ambiguously. Either way, we need to report this to Huygens, Ron said, wincing as a manipulator jabbed a needle into his vein. Blood filled a clear vial. What are we going to report? Marcel snorted. That a naked chick's wandering around the station? We report it as is. Send the camera footage. Marcel sighed heavily. Buddy, that's going to sound weird. We're required to report anomalies? True, but here's a new problem. Comms are down. Completely. Right after I dragged you back? Wireless, cable, everything. We're cut off from the net, Huygens, orbital relays, even weather SATs. Antennas check out fine. Repair box confirmed, but no signals, in or out. All channels, including emergency, are dead. Can't even ping. Just what we needed. Virus again? No clue. While you were out in the medbay, I've been poking at Erie. Still no sign of a virus. What's the plan? I'll send a drone to Huygens with a message. Good. Write up a report. Detail everything. Include the footage of her. Let them figure it out. I'll also send a drone to scout the area, just in case there's a flitter or something nearby, and have it look for her. Oh, and the pump error signal stopped. The repair bot's back too. Checked its logs and cameras. Looks like it just shut down for a bit, then reactivated and returned. That's insane. Yeah, something weird's going on here, buddy. Marcel snorted. By the way, any idea why my Neuralink's down? No clue. Tori's the doc. Let her. I'll handle it. Tori cut him off. But Ronnie needs rest for now. All right. Rest up, buddy. Marcel nodded and left. Ronnie, I'm giving you a sedative shot. Then head to your cabin and chill. You need it after all this. Still naked, Adho stood, wrapped his arms around Tori's shoulders from behind, and buried his face in her hair. His hand slid lower. Not now, Ronnie. Tori gave a strained smile, pulling away. You seem tense. Comms are down. Weird stuff's happening at the station. Of course I'm tense. Sit. Ron sighed and sat back on the cot. Another manipulator approached with a pneumatic injector. Feeling the slight prick, Adho started pulling on his jumpsuit. Marcel watched through the drone's cameras as it spiraled away from the residential module. The drone sent to Huygens lost contact just 1.5 kilometers out. All he could do was hope it kept flying. Through the thick orange smog, the coastline and pump platform were faintly visible. No sign of a flitter or crawler that could be broadcasting interference. Marcy, come to the medbay. Tori's voice sounded urgent. Is it urgent? Very. On my way. Marcel sighed, stood, and headed to the medbay. Tori sat at the control console. Guessing we've got more problems. Huh? You got that right, she replied with a weak smile. Her fingers danced over the touch panel, eyes scanning data in her visual field. Marcy, you know what's up with Ronnie's Neuralink? Marcel shrugged. How would I know? You're the doc. Haven't figured out why it's down. I did. It's not down. It's gone. What do you mean? Gone. Exactly that. Physically absent. Tori touched Marcel's hand, linking him to her xAIStorytelling stream. Now he could see the same virtual xAIStorytelling display she did. Look, this is Ronnie's medical file. Here's the record of all his implants. Part of his liver, femur, heart valves, some joints, all artificial. And this is the full scan I ran after he was outside. How's that possible? Marcel gaped at the display. No idea. Tori spread her hands. The implants are gone, and everything they replaced is back. Like the polymers were removed and living tissue restored, good as new. Including the Neuralink. His brain shows no trace of it, like it was never there. That's insane, agreed. But let's skip the why for now. Organs can be cloned and replaced, implants removed. But there's no record of any such procedures in Ronnie's file, and that data's auto-updated. I'm certain he arrived at the station with his implants. The Neuralink was definitely there before he went outside, you know that. But where'd they go? You can't pull that off on the station. Of course not. We don't have the equipment. You'd need a specialized medical center, not my medbay. And that's not all. When I saw the implants were gone, I decided to run a blood test. Something told me to. And I was right. Look at this. Tori's fingers danced again. Marcel whistled at the new image. What's that? An erythrocyte. Every red blood cell in Ronnie's sample looks like this. Even I, a dumb algorithmist who's no doctor, can tell that's not how an erythrocyte looks. You think I'm pranking you with CGI, Marcy? Not even a little. Marcel frowned, rubbing his bald head. First, Ronnie's file says he never had his erythrocytes replaced with nanostructures. Just standard immune system nanoclusters, like everyone. I should check if those are still there. I'm betting they're not. And second, look at this. It's got nothing to do with our nanotech. Where's Ron now? Sleeping in his cabin. I gave him tranquilizers and sent him to rest. Good call. I've got a crazy idea. Hear me out. Did you tell Ron what you found? Of course not. Good. Don't. Ron says he doesn't remember what happened outside when he met her. Maybe he really doesn't, but Marcel rubbed his head again and continued. Tori, Here's what I'm thinking. When Ron was outside, we lost contact and telemetry for about half an hour. Neither we nor Erie could see him. I suited up and went out. What's bugging me is, where was Ron for those 30 minutes? I don't follow. Me neither. A pulsing alarm blared through the module. Attention! Alert! Erie's emotionless voice announced. Unauthorized airlock cycle initiated. What? Marcel and Tori shouted in unison. Unauthorized airlock cycle activated. Erie! Emergency abort. Nazari ordered. Negative. Unable to stop the process. Airlock computer unresponsive. I've lost access. Son of a bitch! Nazari cursed, clenching his fists. His usually calm, slightly mocking expression twisted into something close to panic. Erie, show me the airlock cameras. Negative. Visual feed from the airlock camera is lost. Video system locked out. After a brief pause, the virtual intelligence added, detecting unusual activity in the local network. A highly specialized, unknown malicious code is present, likely a virus. It's spreading rapidly. This is a targeted attack, Nazari growled. Something's accessed the system, opened the airlock. For someone or something outside. It's seizing station systems through the hostile code. Erie, run a self-diagnostic. Diagnostic in progress. Unauthorized access attempts detected on my databases and control circuits. System compromised at 26%, 28, 31. Self-diagnostic indicates core system corruption. Erie, can you switch to the backup cluster? Negative. The virus has infected the backup core as well, attempting to isolate the source. The malicious code is highly adaptive, actively evading analysis. Source located inside the station, residential cabin 4. Ronnie's cabin, Tori paled, biting her lip nervously. Confirmed. Operator at Ho's cabin, Erie reported calmly, then added, airlock cycle complete. Son of a bitch. Tori, stay here. Marcel bolted from the medbay, sprinting to the central post. The lights flickered and went out. I've lost control of the primary power circuit. Power supply halted. Switching to backup power circuit, Erie announced. Dim red emergency lighting kicked in. Backup power activated. Supply restored, the virtual intelligence reported. Erie, is Ron still in cabin 4? Confirmed. Operator at Ho is in cabin 4. Erie, lock down cabin 4, except for life support. Switch the station to manual control and shut yourself down immediately. Confirmation code, Mutabor 22961. Understood. Cabin 4 locked. Station switched to emergency manual mode. Initiating self-shutdown. Erie's emotionless tone wavered, her synthesized voice trembling. Goodbye? It sounded so human, tinged with despair. Sorry, Erie, Marcel muttered. I'll fix you, little one. The central post door didn't open automatically as he approached. Nazari cursed, wasting precious seconds, jabbed the manual override, and burst in. The main control console, usually alive with swirling lights and floating virtual displays, was dark, opaque, lifeless. The idotech died with Erie. A tense silence hung in the air, broken only by the faint hum of emergency generators. Marcel slapped his palm on the touchpad of a wall-mounted safe with its own Erie independent computer and power source. His genetic code was recognized, the screen flashed green, and the door slid open with a soft whir. Nazari grabbed the stunner, snapped a battery cylinder into the grip, and activated it. The charge indicator lit up, full. The weapon's weight in his hand felt reassuring. He turned to the exit and heard quick, light footsteps. In the eerie, pulsing red emergency light, a shadow slipped into the central post. Marcel raised the stunner but lowered it just as fast. Tori, I told you to stay in the med bay. I was scared. Alone, she whispered. Yeah, probably better this way. Splitting up right now is a bad idea. What's happening, Marcy? Tori sobbed. I think something got into the module. Something alien, and I'm guessing hostile. It tried to take over the station. Erie's infected. I had to order her to shut down before the virus fully took over. Somehow, damn it, I don't know how. Ron's tied to this. What do we do now? First, we find whatever got in. We search the module, track it down, and take it out. Nazari waved the stunner decisively. The connection indicator for the 18th flickered, went dark for a second, then resumed its steady green glow. The automatic ping from the station dropped briefly. Violanta hesitated. As the control center's duty officer, she was obligated to report any incident, no matter how minor. Lately, regulations had tightened, but the signal loss was just a second, hardly a red flag. Still, A strange, nagging unease settled in her gut. Violanta closed her eyes, massaging her eyelids as if brushing away fatigue's cobwebs. On the edge of her console sat a nearly empty mug of cold shala, a reminder of time dragging on and exhaustion creeping in. Monitoring dozens of stations for hours, even with a Kvink's help, was no small feat. The weather map, based on satellite data, showed a storm front approaching the coast, grazing the 18th. Solar heating created atmospheric updrafts, triggering convection and storms. Quaid, the control center's main Kvink, logged the glitch. If Violanta didn't report it and something went wrong, she'd be in hot water. Better to play it safe. She took a deep breath, fingers nervously tapping the armrest. Double check? Worth a shot. Quaid, run a full remote diagnostic on all 18 systems, she ordered. The check took a few minutes, and results appeared. Raw data. Full analysis would take time, but that wasn't needed now. Everything operated normally, except a tiny voltage fluctuation in the station's power circuit, logged at the exact moment the ping dropped. It was so minor the auto-diagnostic ignored it. Violanta zoomed in on the graph, studying the faint spike. It looked like a brief pulse, as if something momentarily tapped the station's power and disconnected. She skimmed the event logs. Nothing unusual. Standard system, network, power, Kvink, pump, and sensor data. Nothing explained the odd pulse. Too much data for a human to sift through. Let the Kvink handle it. Her unease grew. Best bet, talk to the crew. If they're fine, great. The conversation would be logged. Proof she didn't sit on her hands. Violanta ordered Quaid to connect her to the station. 18th, this is Huygens. Duty officer speaking. Respond. Huygens. 18th here. Go ahead. Came a calm, too calm. Violanta thought. Flat voice. Identify yourself. 18th. Who's this? 19 glazed trees on bottle stilts. What? Violanta couldn't believe her ears. This is Operator Ronald at Ho. Go ahead, Huygens. What did you just say? Operator at Ho. I said I'm listening. What's unclear? Huygens, you said something about glazed trees and bottles. What's that mean? I said no such thing. Huygens, I heard you loud and clear. I don't know what you're talking about. Huygens, you just said some nonsense about glazed trees. I'm telling you. Huygens, I didn't say that. The system has no record of trees or glaze. You must have misheard, or your comms are glitchy. Check your equipment. A cold chill ran through Violanta. Adho was lying. She felt it. His comm was too calculated, too perfect. You can review the recording. His voice now carried a mocking edge. I absolutely will, Violanta snapped, and it'll be attached to my report. What's going on at the 18th? Everything okay? You just ran diagnostics. Huygens, you can see everything's normal. We're operating as usual. We lost your ping for a second. 18th. What's your take? Silence followed, so tense Violanta felt goosebumps. She thought she heard faint noises, whispers, clicks, whistles. But maybe it was her imagination. Adho? Adho, you copy. Huygens, sorry, a strained sigh. I can't explain. I'm having trouble processing. The system's glitching. Glitching? What's glitching? What does that even mean? Violanta fought to stay calm. What's glitching? Nothing's glitching. Adho's voice now carried irritation. But you just having hallucinations? Duty officer? He cut her off sharply. If you're going to waste my time with this nonsense, I'm signing off. His incoherent speech, nonsense phrases, and wild mood swings. Violanta sat frozen, her heart pounding. Something was seriously wrong at the 18th. Adho's behavior, the bizarre phrases, the brief signal loss, it all screamed trouble. She replayed the conversation in her head, his mocking tone echoing. The recording would confirm it, but she didn't need to check to know she hadn't misheard. Quaid, prepare a priority alert for the risk team, she ordered, her voice steady despite the rising panic. Include the comm log and diagnostic data from the 18th. Flag it as urgent. Understood. Quaid's neutral voice responded. Alert prepared. Transmitting to risk team command. Violanta leaned back, staring at the console. The green connection indicator for the 18th still glowed steadily, mocking her unease. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening out there was beyond a simple glitch or virus. The glazed trees nonsense. It wasn't just random. It felt deliberate, like a signal meant to unnerve. She pulled up the station's crew manifest. Ronald Adho, Marcel Nazari, Victoria, Tori, Klein. 3 people, isolated on a remote station, cut off from the net. If something, or someone, had compromised them, the risk team needed to move fast. Quaid, any response from the risk team? Risk team acknowledges receipt, ETA to 18th, 1 hour, weather permitting. The storm, of course. Iolanta glanced at the weather map again. The front was intensifying, which could delay the flitter. She cursed under her breath. Every minute mattered. Keep me updated on their progress, she said, then hesitated. And run a deep analysis on that voltage spike. Cross-reference it with any known anomalies in the station's history. Analysis initiated. Estimated completion. 30 minutes. Iolanta sipped the cold chala, grimacing at its bitterness. She needed to stay sharp. Whatever was happening at the 18th, she had a sinking feeling it wasn't just a technical issue. Something was out there, something that didn't belong on Titan. Back at the 18th, Tori's bare feet slapped against the cold floor as she sprinted through the ring corridor. Her heart hammered, her breath ragged. The image of Ron and the guest burned in her mind. Their empty, lifeless eyes, the unnatural blue tint to their skin, the way they moved in eerie unison. It wasn't human. It wasn't right. She reached her cabin, slammed her palm on the DNA-coded lock, and slipped inside as the door hissed open. She engaged the lock, collapsing to the floor, gasping. Her nose throbbed from smashing into the bulkhead earlier, but the nanomedics had stopped the bleeding. She wiped the dry blood from her face, trembling. The cabin was tiny, more a sleep pod than a room. Dim ceiling lights barely pushed back the darkness. Tori curled up on the floor, trying to think. Marcel was gone. Ron was something else. The guest, Dr. Elsa got impossibly alive after 2 centuries, was part of whatever this was. And now they were in the module, hunting her. She forced herself to breathe slowly. Options. She needed options. The airlock was a bust. Somehow, the system had locked her in. The plasma cutter was on the technical deck, but Ron and the woman were blocking the way. Her cabin's lock was DNA-coded, uncrackable without eerie or heavy tools. But plasma cutters were on the technical deck too, if they got one. Tori's eyes darted around the cabin. The auto bunk, a wall-mounted locker, a tiny desk with a dead EIDU terminal, nothing she could use as a weapon. She cursed her helplessness. The risk team had to be coming. Hours had passed since comms went down. Huygens would have noticed. But when they arrived, they'd walk into a trap, clueless about what awaited. She had no way to warn them. Comlinks only worked inside the station. She was cut off. Silence pressed in, heavy and unnatural. Her pulse roared in her ears. Then, footsteps, light with the faint click of magnetic soles. They stopped outside her door. Tori froze, holding her breath. Minutes dragged on, each one an eternity. She scanned the cabin again, desperate for anything to defend herself. Nothing. Shuffling sounds came from the door, followed by those eerie clicks and whistles. Her blood ran cold. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Tori whispered, tears welling. She couldn't recall the rest. I will fear no evil? A soft click, the hum of the door's servo. The flitter, resembling a bloated insect, arced over the 18th squat disk, slowing. Its spotlights cast diffuse beams through the fog, glinting off the landing platform's silver surface. The craft settled on vertical turbines doubling as landing struts. Engine wash shredded the thick smog. The turbines quieted, and a heavy ramp extended from the flitter's belly, lowering to form a gangway. Figures in white suits with rescue service emblems emerged, their helmet lights swallowed by the methane rain. Wind whipped the orange haze, cloaking everything. Freaking storm, Murray growled. Can't see shit. Kately, deploy the Scorpion. A 6-legged robot, dog-sized and spider-like, scuttled into the spotlight beams. It leapt from the platform onto the methane-soaked ice sand and darted toward the module. The team followed in a loose line, moving cautiously. No connection to the local Kavink, Kately reported. Module's totally dark. My Scorpion's picking up no energy signatures. Your Scorpion? Someone chuckled on the team's channel. Kately, still programming your bots for undocumented special tasks. You know, they don't return your affection, unlike me. Rude, Mar. Kately shot back. My approach works just fine. Bots don't complain, even when I push their power cells to 150%. Unlike you. Laughter crackled over the comms. Cut the chatter. Murray barked. Mar, Kately, you're on the clock. I'll dock your bonuses. Yes, sir, Mar grumbled. I'm done, but her jokes be funnier if my fingers weren't freezing, especially the 21st. Enough. Murray softened. How do we breach? Cut the airlock with plasma? Set up a tent? Seal it? That's ours. Hook a power cable to the external ports. They look intact, Kaylee suggested after a moment. Power the airlock from the flitter's reactor. Good call, Murray agreed, then hailed the pilot. Kieran, got 25 meters of power cable? You kidding? Of course, Kieran replied from the cockpit. Great, let's move, Murray waved. Mar, Sankara, handle the cable. What a job, Mar muttered. You want to cut the airlock with plasma? That's a job. No thanks, boss, Mar said, clapping a suited figure on the shoulder. Come on, Sankara. Running the cable from the flitter to the module's external power ports didn't take long. Murray, Kaylee, and two others waited by the airlock, watching Mar and Sankara wrestle the thick cable coil. The methane rain worsened, slashing visibility to a couple of meters. The orange haze felt like a living, flowing curtain, isolating them. Done, boss, Mar signaled, raising a hand as green lights blinked on the external panel. Contact. Power's on. Airlock's ready. Your turn, Kaylee, Murray ordered. At her mental command, the Scorpion skittered up the airlock ladder. It extended a thin, pseudo-living tendril from its uni-tool and inserted it into the port. There was something almost sensual about it. Control lights flashed. Muffled clicks and the hum of pumps sounded from within. Servos whirred, and the heavy airlock door slid open. It worked, Kaylee exclaimed. Good boy, Scorp. The Scorpion darted into the airlock. The team followed. The outer hatch closed, and the bot linked to the inner panel. The inner hatch opened into the transition chamber. Spotlights glinted off suits in their racks. One lay crumpled by the bulkhead. From the chamber, the team entered the ring corridor. The Scorpion scuttled ahead, scanning for oxygen levels and toxic gases. The module was pitch black, silent, and menacing. Even the emergency lights were dead. Spotlights caught frost on the bulkheads. The station felt like a tomb, danger lurking in the shadows. Murray frowned. Something was off. Too quiet, too cold, too wrong. He felt trapped, like he'd stepped into a frozen grave where death waited around every corner. Frost on the walls. He checked the environmental readings and nearly whistled. Below 170 Kelvin. Impossible. Comms dropped about 2 hours ago, so power must have cut then or later. The module, with its insulated layers and heat collectors, couldn't have cooled this fast. It'd take days. Scorpion, full scan, Murray ordered, hiding his unease. Priority, life signs, living beings. At this temperature, what living beings? He thought. No life signs detected, Kaylee reported, relaying the bot's data. Anomalously low temperature. No toxic gases. No energy signatures. Station Kavink non-functional at a structural level. The team crept behind the Scorpion through the ring corridor, checking the residential section's 4 empty cabins, the galley, the rec room, the medbay. Cold, dark, empty. No signs of life. The Scorpion paused at the sealed central control post door, plugged into the port, and powered the mechanism with its own battery. The door slid open, revealing more cold, dark emptiness. The bot's spotlight swept the room and froze on a chair by the dead console. A person sat there. A young woman, completely naked. Her beautiful face was calm, eyes closed, hair spilling over her shoulders. Her pale skin shimmered with frost. Holy shit, Murray breathed, stepping back. We found. He didn't finish. The woman opened her eyes, their icy blue glinting in the spotlight, and looked straight into his soul.